what types of players can give us the best bang for our buck in drafts? Is it aging veterans? Is it rookies, prospects? Is it players who just had a down year? Well, we'll ask these questions, and we'll talk about middle infielders with The Athletic's Nando Di Fino next on Beat the Shift. Welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast, presented by Fangraphs. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. How are you, Ruvain?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. ATC projections are all out. Put up a nice risk article on rotoballer.com. Please take a look at that one. It'll give you a nice description of the interprojectional standard deviation, interprojectional skew, all those nice mathematical terms in nice layman terms. So check that out, and you'll understand a lot of stuff that I say, and you get a better understanding of risk, and so on and so forth. What's going on, Ruvain?
I wish the lockout would end so I can give out some of my injury information here, because right now there's nothing coming out. All you know about the players is what they post on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, we got Hugh Darvish showing that he can pitch. We got Acuna showing that he can stand. What else is coming out here?
Not really much. You can see that basically you see Wander Franco hitting. I mean, there's really nothing really out there. You see Jordan Montgomery throwing. I mean, there's very little out there. You have to really, really comb the internet to try to find anything.
Yeah, maybe I should post a picture of me hitting softball, and maybe a team will sign me. What do you think?
No, please don't do that. No.
We got a great show today. He is the editor of The Athletic Fantasy Sports, and he's the host of the Athletic Fantasy Baseball podcast, the Under the Radar version. Welcome to our show, Nando Di Fino. How are you, Nando?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me back. Feels good.
Oh, our pleasure. And how's the garage doing right now?
You know what? I'm bundled up, and it's still kind of warm out, so it's actually not so bad in here.
It is. It's a very warm night over here in the New York, New Jersey tri-state area, and glad you could join us. So on to this show, as we generally jump right into it. In our strategy section tonight, we're going to talk about a couple of different sources for potential profit and evaluate which category we like the best, as well as maybe a couple of names in each category on who we think is the best chance for profit. Plus, we'll do our middle infielders and the middle end of the show. So check all of that out. Here it comes. So, Nando, on the whole, there are different ways that we can profit. There are different categories of players that sometimes give us a nice chance to make more than what the draft level of when we're taking players could be. Some of them are rookies and prospects. Some of them are aging veterans. You can have players who just had a down season, or you can have injury players who bounce back. What do you think is the best possible chance, or what category do you like drafting from that could give you the most potential profit?
I mean, out of those, it's probably down season. That's my favorite. It's kind of like I've got a master's in history, and I'm really big on research. Like I just read all the time, and I don't know. Like you find some people who a couple of years ago everyone was falling over themselves to get, and either they got hurt or they had like a down season. And there was someone I was going through the rundown. There was someone who just stood out. Was it Meta Rosario? There was someone on the rundown who stood out to me as like the perfect guy who like 2 years ago everybody loved, like everyone was all over him. And now they're just like pretending they never had any, like deleting things they wrote about him. And I don't know. I feel like this guy showed skill. You know, you look at he was, number 8 prospect or whatever, number 16 prospect. And he had like 1 or 2 bad years and he's still young. And anyway, I'm making up a vague player. But for me, it's the down season guys. I do think the best chance for profit, though, is the injury bounce backs.
Interesting. Ruvain?
Yes, I agree with the injury stuff. I think you can make the biggest profit there, especially when it comes close to draft day. If there is spring training going on and you hear these minor injuries that people think are actually major, you can actually profit if you're going to be actually drafting really early on. Now, I do agree with the bounce back because you know what, I majored in history in college also, so I do have that background as well.
Really? Did you?
Yes, I did. I had a dual major, so I loved history and I loved doing the research and stuff like that. So I like that, but I also like digging into these injury guys. This is my thing. I know when people are going to come back, or a good idea when they're going to come back, and when they're going to be at full strength. And that's the key. Knowing when they're going to come back is one thing, but knowing when they're going to come back in full strength, then you know how much money to spend on them.
Wow, I didn't know that we had 2 history majors on the show at one time. Look at that. Fantasy baseball, guys.
You know, it teaches you to research and to kind of like compute that. It's almost math in a way. It's like, here's a problem, go back in time and figure it out and find all these sources and examples and stuff, compute it, and then spit out, a theory. In a way, like on the surface, it's like, yeah, history, boring, social studies. But I guess if you've done it in college and stuff like, like 400, 500 level, it's kind of like the same. It's just almost like X plus Y equals Z.
And it's having the patience to read through everything, because history is a lot of reading. So if you go through everything, you'll see both opinions, the opinions on a lot of different things, and then you can form your own opinion.
I tell you what, it's taught me. It's taught me, like, if I read a recap of someone's press conference, I think it's garbage. Like, I have to go read the transcript because I can't trust someone else's interpretation of something anymore.
Yep.
So interesting. I mean, I found that really boring. I didn't read much in college. I mean, I took a bunch of math classes, and that was the end of it. 2 + 2 is 4, and you're done.
Yeah, no, it's not that easy. Well, see, math is easier for you. Some people get these things, but some people, they just like sitting down and actually poring over these numbers, not mathematically, but historically.
Well, my short answer on the question is I like aging veterans. I kind of think that when you do the upside-downside value-to-risk assessment, kind of think they give you the best return on investment. But let's go through some of the categories, and let's talk about some of the traits for all of them, and a couple of players this year that might go. I like to think of things in terms of, I just mentioned, upside-downside risk. What's the positives? What's the upside? What's the floor? How low can a player go from the category? What's the hit rate? Like, what percentage of the time does it actually work out is important. And cost. Like, how much does the players cost from the kind of category? So, for rookies and prospects, we'll talk about first. I think that it has one of the biggest ranges of upside downside. Like, upside of a rookie is they can win you a league. I know, Ruvain, you and I, a couple years ago when Trey Turner came up, we drafted him, and he didn't play for half a year, but since we had him the whole time, no one could pick him up off of waivers, and he literally went off in the second half, and he won us the league, but some people held on to Jared Kelenic last year, and that was a total flop. I think the error bar is very wide with rookies and prospects. I think the frequency of them hitting is kind of low. I think that most rookies don't actually pan out on your fantasy squads. The ones that do are really good, but usually you don't really get it. The problem, though, I have with rookies is the cost. I think that you got to pay for some good rookies. Like, if you want to roster Bobby Witt, or if you want to roster O'Neal Cruz this year, you do have to pay an amount. Even Spencer Torkelson is going for some high amount. So I generally think it's a bad return on investment because they just hardly work out, and you got to pay for him. You guys disagree on any of that?
No, I think if you pick the right one, though, like Spencer Torkelson, I think his NFBC. I'm sorry for the typing in the background, but I think he's at 254 right now. And if you put his numbers against Bobby Witt's, obviously you're gonna get the steals, whatever, and I know we'll get into that, but actually those two aren't matched up against each other. But either way, like, I think if you pinpoint the right ones who no one's paying attention to and who know, like, everyone's so down on Detroit always. Maybe it has something to do with the team. I don't know, but like Spencer Torkelson to me at 254, he should be like 154 right now with what he did last year and where he can play this year. I'm all over him.
Interesting. I was listening to James Anderson talk, and he actually thinks Riley Green is going to have the better season this year. And actually, if you look at their profiles, somewhat similar between the two. Maybe Riley Green could have a better batting average potentially.
That team is going to be so that team is. I would put them in like a wild card dark horse, maybe even win the division dark horse.
Does Torkelson, does his playing time matter as to what happens with Miguel Cabrera?
I feel like it's going to be a graceful exit, kind of like Albert Pujols, or kind of like Alex Rodriguez. Like maybe a month in, it's like maybe not. Miguel Cabrera's, he still got it. Those guys are kind of, they didn't got it anymore. I don't know, man. In my brain, he's just kind of like he could gracefully retire at any time, or they could trade him in spring training or something. Because there are going to be so many National League teams that might need DHs now.
Well, a guy like Bobby Witt, he's going in the end of sixth, beginning of seventh round. That's a very high price you're paying for him, hoping he's going to do well. Yes, he is a top prospect, and his numbers are just crazy. But if you take someone like you mentioned, O'Neal Cruz, he's going pick I think he's 254 so right now something like that, which is crazy low, and you don't have to pay as much capital. You can still get someone safer up top. Plus, Cruz already played in the majors. Yes, it was only a cup of tea. It was only a couple of games, but he lit it on fire just like Bobby Witt did in AAA. So you're investing less in someone like Cruz than you are in Witt, and you need less of a return from Cruz than you need from Witt.
That is correct. As far as the two of them, we're talking about the risk measures at the top of the show. Bobby Witt, projections do not agree on him. I have some projections that have him at 5 homers for next year and some at 25 homers. It's a big error bar for him.
Where's ATC? Where's ATC got him?
ATC's got him at 20 homers on the higher side.
Nice.
Projects him for about a $12 player and a 5x5 15-teamer, but he's going 7th round, which is higher than that. As opposed to O'Neal Cruz, actually ATC has projected for a bargain. ATC is high on him. 17 homers, 12 stolen bases, 261 average. Definitely according to ATC, O'Neal Cruz is the far better pick per price than Bobby Witt.
The only thing about Bobby Witt is he played some third base in the minors. Right now he's listed as a shortstop, but there's a possibility that he'll come up as a third baseman. If you put him at third base, that may not be that bad because third base is kind of shallow this year.
Yeah, I think, is there a playing time crunch over at KC where you have Mondesi, Witt, you got Merrifield, you also have Nicky Lopez? Like, is there enough playing time in there for the infield for everybody? Who's losing out?
They're going to play the people who are hitting. That's what they're going to do. Nicky Lopez, he was very steady. I think the people in Kansas City love him because he's a great defensive guy, but they can't keep Bobby Witt down anymore, so they have to find space for him. I think that odd person out may end up being Adalberto Mondesi. I think if he doesn't produce or gets hurt, he may be lost.
You agree, Nando?
I think you could see something in spring training where it's like, and this is a much different level, but Ronald Guzman playing the outfield last year for the Rangers all of a sudden. Like, oh yeah, Guzman's playing some left field, some right field here and there. Unfortunately, he got hurt, unfortunately, in the first week. But I just think you'll see them get creative and throw some guys, who's projected to play right field and center for them right now. Let's say, Fangraphs says that Kyle Isbell and Michael Taylor. I mean,
right.
I could see them bumping a couple guys around to make room here. Maybe Mondesi's all of a sudden taking grounders at second, Merrifield's in the outfield again. So I just think. Almost what Ruben said. I'm taking a different tack. Like, if they're hitting, they'll play. They'll find a way.
Right. That makes sense. Let's talk about aging veterans, who it's my favorite category. I think aging veterans, I think the upside is there. I mean, we saw last year we had Joey Votto, and Joey Votto, aging veteran, he turned into a pretty good fantasy baseball player. It's a lot of times where you think they got nothing left in the tank, and there they run out. I like them because the downside is limited. Usually you don't have to pay a high price. They're not very costly in general, and even they don't go to zero. Like, they'll give you something, even if it's not great value. They'll give you something. So it's limited downside. Cost is low, and the hit rates are high. I think that more than 50% of the time, these aging veterans do return much of their value. So if you put it all together, I like this category. I'll give you a couple names, and maybe you can start and tell me which you think are the best ones for profit. Maybe one of the players who's going to be a big bust. But here they are: Charlie Morton, Zach Greinke, Joey Votto, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright, Nelson Cruz. Yeah, Nando, which of those you think might be your best and worst of the 6?
Man, I can't figure out Morton. Greinke, I think, will be the best. I just. A guy who's been that good, even if you start to lose a little velocity or anything, I think you can become crafty. Almost in like the Charlie Moore, you just kind of reinvent yourself a little bit as your career goes along, and you start to, lose some skill and you can gain some other in craftiness. So I'm more in on Zach Greinke than I thought I would be. Votto, I could see him repeating. Molina, I could see him getting hurt and not playing a bunch. Wainwright, I could see him reverting, and Cruz, I could just see him falling off a cliff. So I would say Greinke definitely the best. The worst, probably Molina. I don't like catchers to begin with. I don't like going after him and paying high prices. And Molina seems like he would bring just a little bit more of a price tag for his stature.
Your thoughts, Ruben?
Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina, this is their last year together, probably most likely. You can't see Wainwright doing what he did last year, and right now people are paying for what he did last year, which is just crazy. I don't think he's going to get anywhere near that value. Joey Votto, he could repeat. I mean, he seems like he found the fountain of youth. He actually increased his launch angle by about 3 or 4 degrees, and all of a sudden he hit all these home runs. Charlie Morton's going to be interesting because he threw 200 innings last year if you count the postseason. He threw 200 innings and he's coming off of an injury. So you don't know how he's going to bounce back from injuries. I'm a little nervous about him. Nelson Cruz, I'm worried about the Carlos Delgado effect. Carlos Delgado did great. I think it was in 2008, and in 2009 he was just gone, just completely gone. One of these years is going to be Nelson Cruz last year. I think this is going to be the year he's going to just fall off the cliff. And I do think Zach Greinke is the safest of this group because you're going to pick him right now. He's currently at, let's see, he's at pick 332 right now, which is, or he was at 330. He was at 280, either 332 or 280, depending on which ADP you're looking at. And you're not putting that much money into him, and you're knowing what you're going to get. You know they're going to say that in spring training his velocity is down again because
Yes.
he does it every year. And you know what? Everyone's going to get worried about it. His ADP will drop, and I'll take that whip of his. I have no problem with that.
Ariel, I got two guys, aging guys, who I like better than all these combined.
Okay.
Right around 200 ADP. Yuli Gurriel, who I don't think people realize is
Yeah.
37 years old. And I'd take a risk on Josh Donaldson, on a bounce-back Josh Donaldson, I think.
Yeah, I'll give you another one who I like better in this group. How about Charlie Blackmon? People are just writing him off, and I don't know why. He was fantastic last year.
He's still kind of young. He's not 36, right?
Blackmon?
Oh,
think
Blackman's
he's-
35. I don't.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's
I had him
getting
more
there.
33. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Maybe we're the ones getting old.
Well, all the guys we mentioned before, they're all over 38. That group we mentioned before, they're all over 38, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah. I think though. I think I agree with most of everything said. I think Zach Greinke. The only appeal to me is just the cost that he's virtually free, especially in like a 10, 12 team league. He's free, so free is free. But I don't see the upside with him. I mean, he really got worse last year. His swing strike rate is now down to 9. His K rate sunk from 25% to 17%. The walk rate is starting to just inch up a little bit. I just don't think he has anything left in the tank. And, we used to love him for his whip. His whip was, 1.2, 1.02, 1.17 this past year. I have projection systems that are projecting for a 1.3 whip. If he's not going to have a good whip, Zach Greinke is pretty much useless because that strikeout rate stinks. Charlie Morton, to me, has the biggest potential to actually making a profit because he is going cheap compared to his true talent level. It's just a question of will he stay on the field. If he does, he's certainly the best option. So I think the answer here is Morton. The safest is obviously Joey Votto. Nelson Cruz, I mean, we were wrong the last 25 years in a row with him that we thought he was going to, he thought he was going to be dead. But again, if Nelson Cruz is healthy, it's fine. The production does not faze me on Morton or Cruz. It's just the health on them. And I agree, Molina and Wainwright are just way overpriced. So we'll go there. Actually, I said it's my favorite group, but not this year. The couple of guys that I mentioned, these 6 here, really aren't that thrilling. But I like your pick, of Donaldson, and I like Blackmon as well. I think those are a little bit better. In general, it's a good spot to mine, I think. Let's talk about down season. That's Nando's favorite one. Down season, of course, you see that. I think the hit rate on down season is high, right? Because, players regress down, but they regress up. If you have a down season, it could be because maybe there was an injury that you didn't know about, just bad luck. I mean, that happens all the time. In terms of price tag, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes players have a down season and they're still priced high, and sometimes you get a nice discount, so it really depends on the player. So the return on investment is kind of volatile, but you definitely can get a great bang for your buck. So I kind of like this section as well. What do you think, Nando? Let's talk about a couple players who had a down season. How about Mike Trout?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't like Mike Trout, I don't know what the worry would be with Mike Trout. Is that he getting old? I mean, he's not old. He's gotten hurt a little bit, but Mike Trout's awesome.
question is he undervalued as a player? Right now he's going late first round, let's say. I mean, he used to, for maybe almost a decade he was top 2 picks. Or is everyone getting a huge buy if they're buying Trout, or is just not not worth the risk of the health anymore?
No, right now if you're on the turnaround, and you know what, you can kind of throw Mookie Betts on this list too. You could start with Mike Trout and Mookie Betts if you're drafting in a 12-team league at 12 and 13. According to ADP right now, every draft's different, whatever. But I mean, or even Mike Trout, Walker Buehler. Like, imagine a base of Trout and Betts. You will not have to draft another outfielder for 20 rounds.
Yeah, no, definitely an interesting way to play it. Ruvain, what about Francisco Lindor? He had a down year. We know this as Mets fans. Is he in route for a bounce back, in your opinion?
I think he is. I think he's going to be more comfortable his second year being in New York, a little bit less pressure because he's got a better lineup around him. And me and you did a really deep dive on him, and his batting average. There's something odd about his batting average. I don't think he hit 258 the last 2 years. 258 and then 230. But his peripherals say he should be batting a lot better than that. He was unlucky last year. He was bunting. If we watched him day in and day out, he was bunting way too often for sacrifices, for hits. I don't get it. But him being right now his ADP is 49, and he's about the 8th shortstop off the board. I think that's being undervalued. I think he should be a little bit higher. I don't think he's a top shortstop, but I think there is something to gain in that batting average that I think he'll have a little bit more luck this year, and he may be worth being picked there and even later.
Are you on board, Nando, with Francisco Lindor?
Oh, big time, man. I think like Buck Showalter's going to transform that team and get the most out of basically everybody.
I'm off Lindor.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, I mean, I should be as a Met fan, right? But I'm a pessimistic Met fan, apparently.
I think that's redundant.
Yes, exactly. The first 6 weeks of the season, I guess it was all the bunting that had to do with it. His launch angle was like -7 degrees for the first 6 weeks. Like, he was literally, on average, hitting it into the ground, straight into the ground. I think that people think that he's a 30 home run player because he did it early in his career. I think those years were very lucky. I think the home run to fly ball rate might have been lucky for what he could accomplish. His barrel rate is awful. His whole career, he's not shown 30 home run power in his barrel rate. I think he was kind of lucky with the power, and now everyone thinks, couple of 30 home run seasons in a row, that's who he is. I think he's closer to 20 home run player. I mean, I would project him as a low 20s homers. ATC is projecting 26 homers, but me and Ariel, the analyst.
Are you at odds with yourself?
Well, I mean, ATC is the formulaic based, right? I can be at odds with myself sometimes. I generally don't want to. I want to follow ATC as much as I can, but my gut tells me that he is lower because I think that the projections are baking in those 30 home run seasons, and I don't think that those are completely legit.
So do you not feel that? I'm sorry, when people question ATC and you see people tweet like, "Well, ATC's got him for 26, but I think it's going to be 20." Are you like, "Yeah, I agree"? You don't mind when people criticize it?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what? It's about projections in general. If you can't follow projections blindly, because there's stuff about projections that they bake in certain assumptions. And, let's say a guy was injured last year. Projections will show him lower than he should be because they're including statistics from last year where he was hurt. So if you know that as a person that they are going to be a little bit low because of something, you'll know that, okay, for that player, I do have to bake in a little bit different, and you want to change the projections a little bit to fit your own mode. But in general, if you veer very far off projections, you're going to be bad. Like, projections are the best guess in the long term. If you told me, Ariel, you can come up with your own system, your own manual picks, take a look at players, but you don't get to use projections for the rest of your life, or follow blindly ATC projections for the rest of your life, it's ATC projections easily. But I'm totally fine with saying that I think that Lindor is not a 30 home run player and is not even close. Even though ATC says 26 homers, I take the under. I'm fine with that.
But Nando, I think you're onto something about Buck Showalter because last year they had a make-believe hitting coach for about a quarter of the
Yeah,
season last
you
year,
remember that?
which
Yes.
is just insane. I think they were using they were misusing the analytics that they had. Now they have a whole new crew there, new hitting coach. I think they have Eric Chavez on there as well. I think they're going to have a completely different approach to the plate, and I think they're going to say to him, you know what? You may steal less, but get your launch angle up, swing higher up, hit more line drives, and that's if he does that, his batting average will go up and his power will go up.
True story here. I actually sent in an application to the New York Mets for an analyst job like a couple weeks ago, and I just got back an email saying we are not going to proceed further. What a bummer, huh?
Sorry to hear that, man.
All right.
Screw him.
Yeah, screw them. We're here doing Beat the Shift instead. Let's talk about a couple Yankees who had down years. How about DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres? Nando, do any of them strike a chord with you, or are you still down on them?
No, I'm going to have the same kind of refrain for like these guys who have a history of good seasons and then have a down season as bounce back candidates. So the price is going to be right probably. LeMahieu, I don't know what he's going to look like. I remember when Brian Roberts came out of nowhere and hit that 20 home run season, and I know the park effects are going to be different. LeMahieu in Yankee Stadium is a little cozier than LeMahieu in Colorado, and so that can account for it. But I don't know if the homers are real, but I do think like he can hit 330 and score runs, drive some in. I don't know. I like the price is going to be good on him. Gleyber Torres, I still think could be a star. I believe in the tons of prospect lists he was on, and then. You know what? There's something weird about Yankee Stadium for like him, Gary Sanchez. I don't know what's going on, but I do still like Gleyber Torres. I like him as a different level, obviously, than LeMahieu, as just a potential to break out. But yeah, I'm in on this group big time as bounce backs because they have a track record of success.
Yeah, I have different views on those two players. I agree with you on Torres. I mean, Torres had that 38 home run season, and that was after he had a 24 home run season and only like 400 and something at bats. I kind of think that Gleyber Torres has bounce in him, and last year you had to pay a 4th round price to get him. Now he's going in like the 10th round.
Yeah.
I disagree about LeMahieu though. I think that he was lucky. I think that the combination of Yankee Stadium on the first comeback and the ball. I think the ball in the bouncy ball in 2019 and maybe carried over to 2020 gave him that extra power. I mean, he was showing these homer to fly ball rates that were insane for him. He's not a 22% home run fly ball person, DJ LeMahieu. He's just not.
But I think LeMahieu has a much better chance of bouncing back than Gleyber Torres. I'm very down on Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres, think about this. In 2020 and 2021, he's had 12 home runs in his last 676 plate appearances. Okay, where did that power go? When is it coming back? How is it coming back? How is he turning this around? I think the only way he actually turns it around is if he gets traded. I think he needs to change the scenery. Just like him and Gary Sanchez, I think they both need to change the scenery, and I think they'll take off wherever they go. But as long as he's a Yankee, I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's going to just continue to be what he is.
I disagree on Torres. I think that Torres, one of the issues is that they asked him to play shortstop.
Yes.
And he's not a shortstop, right?
Yes. That can mess with somebody.
I think so. And I think I think it matters if the Yankees sign one. If they sign a shortstop, maybe Correa, and he moves over to second base, I think that a lot of his woes and his angst and pressure goes away, and I think he can get back to hitting where he doesn't have to really focus on the defense. I mean, he's probably running drills all the time on the field on fielding and doing less batting practice because he's got a shortstop for the Yankees. Jeter, I mean, he's got to cover those shoes.
He had 18 errors last year as a shortstop, man.
Yeah,
but didn't
unfair in a way.
Didn't he come up as a shortstop? I mean, wasn't he a shortstop until Didi got there?
Everybody comes up
in the
as
system.
a shortstop.
He was a shortstop.
But everybody,
but
who comes up as a second baseman though? Everybody comes up as a shortstop.
Well, they groomed him as a shortstop to take over after Derek Jeter left, but it didn't work out. They signed Didi instead. They traded for him, and that's why he ended up moving to second in the first place.
Yeah, well, with LeMahieu again, I think it was fluky, and I actually listened to Rates and Barrels today with Eno and DVR, and Eno was saying that he thinks that the ball this year in Yankee Stadium was more of the new dead ball than it was the old live ball. Like the Yankees might have gotten a larger mix of the new product. So I kind of believe these statistics more than the old ones because in 2021 they're going to be using more of the dead ones. So if you believe that, LeMahieu actually will be more of a bust than Boom. All right.
Well, I don't.
Yeah. We shall see here. Injury bounce backs, another category. I guess Mike Trout, though, should have been put in that category. He's more injury bounce back than anything. Although it was more missed time than bad play. But injury bounce backs, another potential spot where you can mine for gold. The biggest question, though, is the player actually healthy again? And I feel like injury bounce backs work better for hitting than for pitching. Because pitching, there's the added risk of re-injury, much more so. Hitting, if you have the soft tissue injuries, the hamstrings, they can reoccur. But a guy who had a hurt wrist, I mean, that's just a fluke injury. But let's before we talk more about that, it is time for the Injury Guru's Trivia of the Week.
So we're going to be discussing 4 different players now who missed some time, who were injured last year and maybe undervalued this year. I'm going to name 3 of them. I want you to name them in the order of the most games missed by the player. Okay? Name them in the order of the most games missed. I'm going to give the 3 players. Luke Voit, Adalberto Mondesi, or Jack Flaherty. Put them in order of most games to least games missed last year.
I'll say Voit, Flaherty, and Mondesi. I feel like Mondesi, we talk about him missing a lot of games being injured that carried over from years past, and not so much this past year.
I'll say Voit, Mondesi, Flaherty.
Well, the answer is Flaherty missed the most games last year. He missed 103 games, and believe it or not, Luke Voit and Mondesi missed the exact same amount of games.
Oh, that's your question.
They both missed 100 games last year. Flaherty missed 103.
Okay.
So,
close.
Yeah, but you got to divide Flaherty by 5, so it really that's only 20. So we were right.
well, the issue with Flaherty, and I think Flaherty is the most undervalued of all of the group, and that's going to also include Lance McCullers. If you want to throw him in there, because Flaherty, he's only 26. He had an oblique issue that I think led to a shoulder issue, and now he has a full offseason that he's completely healthy because he did come back toward the end of the year. Remember in 2020, the Cardinals kept starting and stopping because of COVID. That season wasn't normal. Last season wasn't normal, but he has a normal offseason, so I think he is the most undervalued of this list.
All right, so the 4 we're going to talk about is Mondesi, Flaherty, Lance McCullers, Luke Voit. Who do you got as your favorite and least, Nanda?
My favorite probably should be Jack Flaherty, but I don't know, man. I'm weird when you miss a lot of time with shoulder, and I know a lot of it is oblique, but like if you don't have surgery, I just feel like it's gonna pop up again. And it's not like me advocating for surgery. It's just a very vague-ish way I read this. Like, oh, he had the forearm strain. Next year he's gonna need Tommy John. Like it's just a matter of time until something happens. So for me, the shoulder. I mean, maybe he learned his lesson, and I'm 1,000% on board with Raven. And, the oblique led to the shoulder. Like, the overcompensation is going to mess you up. But, man, I just like Flaherty. And if he really does come in okay, he's awesome. So, Flaherty's my favorite. Probably Voigt's my least favorite. I don't know where Voigt's going to find playing time exactly.
Yeah.
Again, National League DH is going to open up a lot, though. So, he could be a huge sleeper.
I mean, yeah, I can't. I think the Yankees are going to sign a first baseman. I just have to. I mean, is Freddie Freeman going to sign there, you think?
I don't know, man.
Chance.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think Freeman's going to sign there. I don't think Rizzo's going to sign there because the Yankees need money to sign Aaron Judge, and I think they want to lock him up. They can't sign Correa and Judge and Rizzo or Freeman unless they want to just break the bank like the Mets are trying to do now.
Yeah. Who do you like, Ruvain, from the 4?
It's 100% it's Jack Flaherty. Luke Voit, maybe because he may have more playing time than people think he will. Mondesi, listen, you either love him or you hate him. It's one or the other. And I'm the ones who are on the fence. I'm actually somewhere smack in the middle. I hate to say that, but I am, because every year I say I don't want him, and every year I have him on one of my rosters because of where he is, because of his value. Another guy who we're not mentioning at all, we haven't mentioned yet, is Ronald Acuna. Acuna's coming back from injury too. We're seeing all these videos of him playing. Right now, his ADP is toward the end of the first round. I think he is the most undervalued.
Well, I don't like any of those four at all, really. I can't believe I'm
Well, you're
saying
not supposed
this.
to like him, right? I mean, you're forcing me to make a decision.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, Flaherty, again, the skills are there, and it's just a question of, is he going to stay healthy? And it's so risky for me. I think Mondesi is the best of the group, but because Mondesi has the highest upside of all of them. Mondesi, if he plays a full season, he's a potential first-round buy with the amount of steals he has. So I think because of the upside and because I don't think these injuries are debilitating. Like Flaherty could be knocked out of the year. McCullers could be knocked out of the year. Voit, I mean, he seems worse than Mondesi for health. Mondesi has the highest upside, so I like him. But Acuna, I mean, here's the one thing I'll just say is that as soon as spring training starts, and hopefully it'll start soon with the lockout, as soon as Acuna steps on the field, his price goes up. Like he's going at the back end of round one. He's going to go right in the middle of round one the second he goes. So if you're going to buy him, you're definitely worth buying him now as opposed to later when his price goes a little bit up. But Acuna, I mean, we talked on the show, he should get back to his production relatively quickly. People recover well from that kind of knee issue. The only question is whether the recovery is going to be April 1st or May 1st or unfortunately into June 1st. And the other thing I'd say is that the lockout going longer, of course, helps Ronald Acuna, right? For every single day, for every single week that Acuna, that there is no season, there is a higher percentage of the season that Acuna will play going forward. And by the way, it's the exact opposite for Ramon Laureano in terms of the lockout. For more, he's going to be suspended for whatever number of games it is, and that's going to start whenever the first game starts. So if there's 20 games knocked out, it's just a higher percentage of the season. Laureano's value goes down. Just an aside on there. And any other bounce backs, guys?
What about two other guys? If you had a choice between Jacob deGrom, where he's going, or Clayton Kershaw, where he's going, who would you take?
That's DeGrom there.
Yeah, I got to go to Grom.
Yeah.
Maybe,
That's a lot of capital on it. That's an end of second round player that you may get nothing, or you may get the best pitcher in baseball.
Can we throw Syndergaard in this mix? Does he count? Because he wasn't really. He's Tommy John coming back.
Sure, he counts.
Sure.
So, I love Syndergaard this year. He's going to be on all my teams. I'm going to reach 50 spots higher.
Why you like him?
He's far enough removed, I think. I mean, he's still got it. He's far enough removed from Tommy John. Like, he's got that 18-month. He's already passed it.
Yeah.
So I think the old Syndergaard's going to come back and just, 160, 180 innings, I'm fine with. I think he's going to, dare I say, dominate?
I mean, as a Met fan, I can't take him.
He was so great. He loved everybody. And he was a great Met.
He was my wife's favorite pitcher, and now he abandoned the team. I mean,
Or did the team abandon him?
I think the team didn't
Takes
want
two to
him.
tango, my friend.
I don't think the team wanted him. I don't think they wanted to deal with his quote unquote antics, even though he was probably good for the team and Mr. and Mrs. Met, whatever he did with them. But I think that being in a different situation will help him immensely. Being in California with the blonde, long, flowing hair, I think it's just going to do wonders for him.
he definitely saved the Mets money on shirts. I'll tell you that.
There's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
All
yeah,
right.
but they want to sell jerseys, so I don't get that. So
Well, with that, that wraps up our strategy section here, and we move to the ATC undervalued players section, middle infield today. And just Nando, here's how we play this. Basically, as we just discussed in the middle, ATC is an algorithm that comes up with a great guess, and ATC is the best projection system, obviously. But we don't always agree. Just because ATC says a player is undervalued, that doesn't mean we as analysts think that he really is undervalued. But it does bubble up to the top the potentials. I don't want to study the entire middle infield player pool. If a player, according to ATC, is $7 overvalued, I'm not going to buy him. There's nothing you're going to say that's going to convince me that says, oh, you're right. Now let's change it by $15 and I'll buy him. I have no interest in that. But if a player is $7 bargain, let's at least find out whether we want to buy him or not and concentrate on those. So the players today, let's start with Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve had a nice bounce back year. He 600 at bats, 31 homers, 278 average, stole 5 bases. Are you in on Altuve, who's a $2 bargain according to ATC? According to ATC, Nando?
Oh yeah, big time. I think he's still got the stench of the cheating scandal on him. So that I think that knocks down his value a little bit when you're in real auctions. But if you look at the trash can bang percentages that guy did on Twitter, and you listen to the story about where Altuve went down and said, please stop doing that, it actually adds up. I love Altuve because everyone else hates him, and I have no problem having a villain on my team, especially when he's going to come at a great bargain.
All right, Uwe?
I like Altuve also because of the fact that he's done it his entire career, even before the whole trash can thing. He's going to his age 32 season. He doesn't steal that much anymore. When people aren't buying him for his steals, they're buying him for his batting average. And last year he batted 278, and that was 50 points below his career high in BABIP, so in his career average in BABIP. So I think there's still more batting average you can get from there. Last year he had more value then. In a 15-team league, 5x5, he had more value than, according to ATC, Trevor Story, Javi Baez, Tim Anderson, Xander Bogaerts, and they're all going ahead of him. Altuve is going in the 6th round. I'll take that every day.
Yeah, and I'm usually not on Altuve, but I guess he's an aging veteran if you want to consider it. I kind of think that he's stable. I think his floor is very high. I cannot see him going to 0. Whether he's going to hit 31 homers or not, that sounds like I'm not going to say a dream, but it sounds on the high side. But 20, 25, I think it's more than doable. I think he'll still throw in a couple of bags. Batting average, he's got an 85% contact rate. Last year it was 86 even. We're talking middle infielders who sometimes you have to pay a $2 premium for in the middle, and yet he's going for $2 bargain. ATC risk metrics are all very clean. He is very stable. I kind of like him as well for a pick here. What about Jorge Polanco? Polanco is going also in the 6th round, same as Altuve. He is a $3 bargain according to ATC projections. His risk metrics also very safe. He's very spread categorically. 9 steals projected, 26 homers, 268 average, lots of runs. He does it all. He's really somewhat of a 5-category player, and I kind of like him. I think that with him and Altuve, you can go into round 6, and if you're interested in a second baseman, you can say, give me Altuve / Polanco, whoever's available, and because there's 2 of them instead of just 1, you might have a chance of them being there. So I'm good with picking that little hot spot and concentrating on that in the 6th round, if that's so what you want to do. Better in auction, though. I kind of see myself taking either of these guys in an auction because in a draft I might have to do something else in the 6th round, only because of the way the dynamics go. But in auction, I'm all over these 2. What about you, Nando? Any interest in Jorge Polanco?
Love him. I love him. He's got dual eligibility, too, and for
yes.
me, I'm old school, back, 15, I don't think 20 years ago, 15 years ago, back, Talented Mr. Roto days. It was, one thing you looked at was doubles. And you're like, if this guy's hitting doubles, a lot of those are going to turn into home runs if he's still, under 30. And he had 40 doubles in 2019. He had 35 last year. And I still look at that once in a while. And I think that's an indicator that there's some upside still. Upside off the 33 home runs. So, yeah, I like Polanco. I didn't like Polanco until, maybe the 2020, the strike, the COVID-shortened season. And then I really started digging more into him, and I really began to love him. So, yeah, weigh in. Yeah,
definitely. Ruvain, what about you?
I'm not as in as you guys are. I'm a little nervous because he hit 33 home runs last year. He earned $20 last year. I'm a little nervous that people are going to all of a sudden realize toward this part of the draft, wait, I need to get some more power, and they're going to take him earlier than he's supposed to go, and I'm a little bit nervous about that. Last year also, he was very pull happy. 53% of the balls in play, he actually pulled, and that is not good, especially with the shifts going on, unless they ban it for some reason. I'm a little nervous about that. That lineup is not going to be as... Well, if it's not that good to begin with, so I'm a little nervous about Polanco at this spot. I'd rather have in the same round. I'd rather have Altuve, and I don't think Polanco is worth the 6th round value. I'd actually wait a little bit longer for him.
Nando, you mentioned doubles last year. The league leader in doubles, 4 players tied with 42: Bryce Harper, J.D. Martinez, Whit Merrifield, and do you know who the 4th person is?
I feel like there's some kind of meaning here, a trickery, but I don't.
There's no trickery here, but it's Eimer Candelario.
Love it. Nice.
You mentioned doubles turning to homers. That's a possible spot that could happen. So consider that one. How about Ahmed Rosario? You mentioned him at the top of the show. What are your thoughts about him going? He's going in the 11th round, by the way.
He was supposed to be the next big thing for the Mets. I think he had the 2020 potential, high batting average potential. And I was kind of on him all year. I think a lot of people thought he was just kind of cast aside, but he was a major part of that trade. I actually still kind of like Jimenez too, but Ahmed Rosario, man, I think he's pretty much solidified in that lineup. Going to play every day, get 600 at bats. That's to me, 2022 potential with a 285 average.
All right, Uwe.
And he's going after Gleyber Torres, and he's going after Chris Taylor, and I think he has more upside than both of those guys because he gives you the stolen bases that you may need. He had 24 stolen bases in 2018. That's why everyone was so hyped about it. Then in 2020, you know how many stolen bases he had? A goose egg. None. So people were down on him again, and then you go back and forth. He played 18 games in the outfield, so you have to check your league. If it depends on league minimums, he may be eligible in the outfield for you as well, which also gives him some flexibility, which actually adds more to his value.
All right, so I think he has limited upside. I kind of think, like, ATC's projecting 13 homers, 16 stolen bases, 278 batting average. I kind of think that's more towards his upside than towards his middle average. Like, projection is supposed to be an average. I kind of think that's more of his upside. So if you consider that, I don't think there's room for profit, really, in the 11th round. I mean, is he going to return that? Great, but I don't need to return par value. I want a little bit of profit, and I don't think he can have that there. He had a 340 BABIP last year. He has a career, a very high BABIP in his career, but 340 last year was just insane. And that came, his 282 average came with that. I would take a grain of salt. So I don't see him as a 280 hitter. I see him more of a 270 hitter. And that's quite a bit to drop him, I think. I like the bargain with Polanco rather than have Ahmed Rosario. Although he listen, he is spread nicely. I'll give you that with the steals and a little bit of homers, a little bit of the batting average, but not enough overall value to me to really take him here. And I don't think he can be much better than this. Next guy is Jean Segura, or is it Jean Segura? How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Jean. I think I dug through this once before, and I think it's Jean.
Because the French
we were saying Jean on the show, and they're like, no, it's Jean.
All right. Well,
when they announce him in the stadium, it's Gene.
Maybe Gene can come on the show and correct his name. I mean, that'll be like a 1-minute conversation. What's your name? Jean. All right. See you later.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Anyways, Segura, he is
Make
going.
him play the Luke Voigt game.
What's his name? Voix?
No, I mean make him play the injury game.
The injury game. Okay. That's funny.
There you go. All right, Segura. ATC has him at a nice profit. $12 player going for 6, going in the 14th round, although close to what Rosario's level is. He's a guy that I like every year because he's also very categorically split. ATC projects him for 15 homers, 9 steals, 281 average, 74 runs. The issue is playing time. Is he going to have at-bats? Getting a little bit on the older side. He had only 514 last year. If that goes any lower, he's going to lose playing time and lose value. Are you any in on Jean Segura, Nando?
Not really. I think we know what he is. To me, like, let's see, his ADP is like 198, which it seems like we've been swimming in that lately. Let's see, second baseman around him, Jonathan Scope, Colton Wong, Eduardo Escobar ahead of him, and oh man, I guess Brandon Crawford at shortstop. Oh, Enrique Hernandez, I would definitely take over him. He's about 15 picks later. It's Segura, I think, has limited upside. I don't think we're going to see anything beyond teens in homers and steals. Fine, whatever the average could be, anywhere between like 260 and 290. But yeah, there are just a bunch of people who I would rather have. I'd probably skip him. Gavin Lux, I'm huge on, and he's coming like 30 picks after him. I'd rather go with that kind of upside at this point.
I mean, I agree that his upside is limited, just like Rosario. But with Rosario, you're only getting a $2 bargain over market, according to ATC. With Segura, you're getting a $6 bargain. So even if he has no upside, even if that's it, you're still making a nice amount per dollar here. It's a value proposition with Segura, is what I'm saying here. I agree on the upside. He is who he is. He's not getting any better than this,
And he's also a leadoff hitter. He's a leadoff hitter for the Phillies right now, and hitting in front of that lineup, hitting in front of Bryce Harper, hitting in front of Reese Hoskins. He's going to score a lot of runs if he can get on base. And with that, if he bats 270, 280, and he gets on base a lot, he doesn't have to steal to score. He will have to just trot home with a lot of the home runs that'll be hit behind him. So he's going to get you a lot of runs, and that's a sneaky way to get runs. And you know what, Nando? If you're going to skip him, I hope everyone else says skip him too, because I'll gobble him up even in later rounds because he'll keep dropping.
Well, you don't have to threaten me like that. Maybe I won't skip him.
Oh, no problem. Sorry about that.
You mentioned Jonathan Scope, who was the next guy on our list. I like him even better than Segura for the value. $10 player going for 5 is going in the 15th round, so you can get him even later than Segura. He has the trifecta of ATC volatility metrics. Projections agree. Projections, if any, are up, and he's categorically split pretty well. He had 85 runs and 84 RBIs last year. You mentioned the Tigers on the upswing. He bats in the middle of the lineup. He's going to bat 5th. Or for the most of the year, I think. And his batting average is a plus. He's got a great contact rate, 80% contact rate, so I think there's a nice high floor to his production. The counting stats will be high. I mean, RBIs and runs are 40% of your offensive production. I can see him having 75, 75, 80, 80. I can see that. And you're getting a nice 20 to 25 bank of homers. No steals, but, listen, you're in the 15th round. You can't get everything. I kind of like his value. I think he's a nice profit, even if he just does what he usually does, and he's done this for many years in a row here. Thoughts?
Yeah, so how Ruven is with Segura is how I am with Scope. I think Segura still has some fans, as we just saw, but I don't think Scope has many at all. And he for me is that guy who offers steady production. So likey.
Thumbs up, Ruven?
100% thumbs up. I love this play. He's also eligible at first base this year, so that's an added flexibility for him. But do you know that last year he earned the same amount of value as Jazz Chisholm? Think about that. Think about that. He earned the same value. If you're in the same value and you're getting him so much later than Jazz Chisholm, and he's dual eligible both at second and at first, why would you not want him?
Hey, Nando, what are your thoughts on Jazz Chisholm? Because everybody I listen to and read is so up on him. I am so down on Jazz Chisholm. I think he is way overpriced in the 5th round this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to pay. I like him, but he's not. Yeah, for me, he's 8th. I would be comfortable with him. And I think the buzz is just going to keep going up and up and up. I mean, he might earn it. But for me, it's my drafts kind of end up going a little differently than they would where I would pick him in the 5th round. I don't think auction either. He would come in. I don't know. I like him. I kind of liked him when he was kind of more of a bit of a secret last year, I guess. Even though it's not really a secret, but I mean, maybe he didn't have his believers last year. I think he's going to be great, but I won't be taking him into the 5th round, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you know what his batting average was from June 1st on last year, Jazz Chisholm? 232. His slugging was under 400.
He was a rookie,
WRC plus of 86.
Are you saying people figured him out, or are we just saying
I think he was incredibly lucky and hot in the first 2 months, and he played over his head. I mean,
but his track record suggests that he'll be fine. I would think.
Yes, but not a 5th round value though. That's the problem. He's not going to be a 5th round value.
He might figure it out, but will he figure it out this year? I don't know. I don't want to pay a 5th round price to figure it out. This is not a long-term prospect of him. This is what is he going to do next year, and is the risk really worth it during the 5th round? I mean, ATC projections don't agree. I've got some projections for him where he's got 15 homers, 15 stolen bases, and some he's up to 30. I mean, he has got a very wide error bar, and to be honest, the Marlins, I'm not going to say they're going to send him down, but they can bench him. They can put him batting 9th in the lineup at some point. I don't know if he's 5th round value. I mean, there's so many other great players to take at that time that 2020 is so good. I mean, isn't Robbie Grossman much later on maybe even a better pick for value than him?
I don't know if I go that far. Maybe if you're playing in OBP leagues, but I don't know. Robbie, there's so many good outfielders. I guess, well, if you think that Grossman's going to be hitting the top of the Tigers lineup, and you assume that like all the studs are going to be up for Detroit, in short order. And Candelario, those doubles turn to home runs. That can be a very powerful lineup, and whoever's at the top of that lineup is going to score 100 runs. So if the assumption is Robbie Grossman's going to be up top there, I don't know, man. I'm still not crazy about Robbie Grossman giving you the same.
No, I'm not either, but Robbie Grossman's going in the 12th round. ATC's projecting him 17 homers, 16 stolen bases, 241 batting average. Jazz Chisholm, 2020 with 240? I mean, what are you getting for 3 more homers and 3 stolen bases? You got to give up a 5th-round pick? I think the value proposition is bad for Jazz Chisholm.
You're paying for the name. That's what you're doing, and that's what you shouldn't be doing.
You're paying for half a season.
You're
paying for half a season.
Well, actually, you're also paying for before he got injured also, because he did get injured, and that may have affected him a little bit, like he tried to push himself. And also, that lineup, the Miami lineup, is not that great, and it's very unproven. So, roster resources have him batting second. You have Jesus Aguilar behind him. You have Jesus Sanchez, who's an unknown right now. I mean, there's so many question marks in that lineup. They can easily pitch around him.
Next 3 players are all going in the 21st, 22nd rounds. Sort of a hot spot for ATC. Again, a hot spot is where you have 3 or 4 undervalued players at either the same position or have the same type of statistics, and they're all going for bargain. And the notion is if you have 3 there, instead of saying, I really need to get player A or I target player B, you say, take A, B, or C. I don't care who. They're all going for bargain. Whoever comes up, and, someone will come up because you might get one person who loves J.P. Crawford. We're going to do J.P. Crawford next. Maybe some player loves him, but nobody's going to love every single player in your hotspot. So he will go at somebody will go at ADP. J.P. Crawford, Miguel Rojas, David Fletcher. Let's start with Ruven on this. Which one of those do you like the best, and any information about them?
Well, first of all, for Miguel Rojas, he had surgery, or he was supposed to have surgery until all this information shut down. He was supposed to have surgery on an injured finger that ended his 2021 early. He could go with 10 home runs, 13 stolen bases still, 260 average. They have roster resources, also has him batting leadoff. Yes, again, I mentioned the Marlins lineup not being that good, but still being a leadoff hitter somewhere. And right now they have Miguel Rojas being a leadoff hitter there. So I like his value there, and it's also a quote-unquote injury bounce back. But I like David Fletcher the best. David Fletcher can play anywhere. He played 20 games at shortstop. He can play at second. He played at third when Anthony Rendon got hurt in a couple of years ago. He's not going to give you that much, but he's a perfect guy to have on your bench at the end. He can hit you 5 home runs, 12 possible stolen bases, and the main thing is he's not going to kill your batting average. He'll hit around 270. If he hits around 265, 270, and he's on your bench and he can fill in whenever someone gets hurt, that's a perfect bench player that you want. All
right. What about you, Nando?
Yeah, I actually agree. I don't know. I'm gonna go. I'm not crazy about Crawford. I was for a little while, and then I think he just kind of showed us what he was. And he's not even gonna hit double-digit home runs or steals. I don't think. Maybe more steals than homers. Rojas, I like the idea that he'd be batting the top of the order, but I think a lot of that can change. There's still some moves to be made. I think Kim Ang still has some moves to make. It's really, she hasn't had a shot yet to show off her wares. So I think the Marlins still have a couple moves left in them. Fletcher's just flexible enough, man. That's, I don't think he's going to be that guy who's finally going to settle into one position. And who's that dude on the Cubs, the outfielder who came from San Francisco, like 20, I know this is a long reference, 2014, 2013. I got to think of his name. But they were No, he has a name that's kind of like Mark Grudzielanek, but that's not it.
Is it Mark Grudzielanek?
No, but I'll figure this out.
He played everywhere.
But it was a guy
including Montreal.
I don't think it was him. I'm going to find out. I'll find the Giants 2013 roster. Anyway, the point is, which is a roundabout way of saying I think Fletcher's going to be picking up enough eligibility, playing enough, showing himself valuable enough, bouncing around enough where he's going to get the most counting stats for you.
Yeah. I'll read off his plate appearances in the last couple of years. 665 last year. He had 230 in 2020, which is also equivalent of high 600s. 653 in 2019. It's playing time. His last couple of batting averages, 262, 319, 290, 275. The guy finds spots to play. So
Nate Shearholtz.
Yeah. Nick Shearholz. That's right. That's right. Good one there. That goes way back, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Fletcher, I think it depends on the format. If you're in a deeper format where you want roster spots that have a lot of counting stats, a lot of playing time, Fletcher works better than all these guys, right? If you're in an 12-team AL only league, if you're in a deeper than 15-team mixed league, Fletcher is going to be the steady, tried and true. He won't get you much, but he'll get you enough value that it'll be well worth his cost. I think Miguel Rojas, to me, is better in a more shallow league, 12 to 15 team mixed. The Marlins like him. They put him in a nice spot in the order. He doesn't have much power, but he does have the 10-10 ability with a high batting average. And I think he'll get there. Crawford, I think I agree with Nando. Like we had high hopes for him, but he might have just flamed out. And he does no power whatsoever. So I'm down on Crawford this year.
Well, Crawford came up. He was supposed to be the speed guy, and he never really panned out. But
Yeah.
they love him for his fielding ability, so he's going to stay in that lineup because he's a very good fielder.
Yeah. So, I mean, either of these are all very low value. Hopefully they go, even later than the ADP of round 2021. If you can get him as a bench player, round 28, great. I mean, those are great fill-ins for you as well. It's time for the mailbag. Couple of questions here. First one from PSU Castro. He says, "Hey, Ariel, been listening to you on your podcast and anytime you're a guest elsewhere. Really enjoy the strategy and mining value discussions. Can you talk about your methods for converting projections to values and the different ways that other sites do that portion? Cheers." Well, thank you, PSU Castro, for that. It's kind of complicated to get into a math discussion as far as converting projections to values. The two major ones are SGP and Z-scores. Most people prefer SGP. I like the Z-scores. Z-scores are, if you do a lot of leagues and you don't know what the new context is, you've never played in a league before, Z-scores are good because it's more flexible than SGP. SGP is better if you know exactly the people you have, exactly the league structure you're in, and there you go. I will say, though, for the mathematically inclined, that Z-scores actually prefers more rate stats better. Like, it'll emphasize more batting average, whereas SGP will favor more counting stats like steals or go much more in SGP. But that's just a side. I like Z-scores. It's easier, more flexible to use. All right, John asks, "I know that Dynasty Keeper isn't really you guys' bag, but what are your general thoughts on player valuation for a limited player pool? Restated, if a large percentage of players are already rostered, how do I think about market premiums in a free agent auction?" Well, Nando, do you play any Dynasty leagues?
Oh yeah, I love dynasty leagues. I've got about a half and half split between regular and dynasty.
Okay, so maybe you can answer us. So Ruben and I are not big Dynasty Keeper guys. Well, what do you do if a lot of players are kept? How do you gauge market premiums? Like, steals guys pushed up, saves guys pushed up. Like, how does that work?
Well, for me, so I'm in I'm in a score sheet. I'm in a points league, and then I'm in a two regular rotos. So assume maybe you're keeping 10 out of. Well, dynasty leagues, be keeping a lot more, but yeah. So basically, what I do is these leagues are on CBS. First thing I do is go to their projections and I sort by whatever my team is lacking. I think a lot of people do this before you start your roto league. You go through, you see what players you want, where you could fit under the. You do some fake run throughs, and you add up all your numbers, and what won Tout Wars last year in a 15-team league. What were how many home runs did you need? This, and this, and you make those your targets. So wherever I'm lacking on my targets, I just see what their projections have. There's obviously a lot of stuff I disagree with on there and I want to do my own, but it at least give me an idea who's out there and where the tiers are going to fall off. Because I think the majority of people doing these, especially online, are going to kind of, in the draft room, sort by this, sort by that. So I'd like to know, here's a tier, after this guy who's projected for 20 steals, there's a guy with 12 and 11 and 10, and there's a guy with, 5, 4, 3. So that's basically how I start. Identify just the players I like. Basically, I'm going to have my favorites no matter what. I'm going to have my sleepers no matter what. Again, I like a lot of people who a lot of people don't like. So that actually plays well for me in Dynasty because if they hit, it's not like they hit from July on for me. It's they hit from July on and then for the next 5 years. Like Adolis Garcia's on all my teams. I got a great year out of him last year, but I've got him now until I don't want him anymore. It's a weird combination of things. But if you're just talking about scarcity, I think the best thing you can do is go to your league page, sort by projections, and just get an idea off of that, and then start picking up the players you like in the categories that you need, and taking some shots like plus minus 5 steals with their projections. They're not the end all be all, as Ariel has even said himself. So that's the base of how I start looking when I have a very limited pool and I need to make some moves.
And can we get an
Not
auto
counting
lease?
trades and stuff.
Can we get one of those?
Annalise!
There we go. There we go. All right. No, that's great suggestions. I mean, I don't play many leagues, and you're right. It's not just about the players. It's about what you need. I mean, I think the pricing for yourself has to do with what your category needs are as well. That's a great suggestion. Anything to add to that, Ruvain?
No, I think he answered it pretty well because we don't really do many dynasty leagues, so it's kind of harder for us to give a better answer than what he just gave. So I'll plead the fifth.
And the only thing that we do in Ruben and I do a home keeper league is, I mean, just in terms of player values, we compute what they would normally go for value. We subtract out all what they're being paid for, all what the players who are already being kept are worth, subtract them all out, and then there's going to be some inflation, right? If in a normal auction you would have $260 for $260 of value, maybe you're going to have $220 for $200 value left. So all prices are going to be inflated. So, you do have to adjust any price for that. And if you think there's a market premium for steals or for saves, you'd apply that factor as well. That's the only thing I can think of, but I like Nando's advice on that.
Thanks.
We have Metzi asks, okay, of these players, top 4 most likely to bounce back. Let's just all pick 2 of them. Austin Meadows, Cody Bellinger, Christian Yelich, Eugenio Suarez, Soler, Dom Smith if traded, Jeff McNeil, Bohm, and Gleyber Torres. Pick your best 2.
I'm going to go with Bohm. And I guess we already talked enough about it. Eugenio Suarez seems like a pretty safe bounce back to me. But Gavin Lux, man, I'm telling you. Gavin Lux, Joe Adell. Jump on them. No one's really talking about them.
Yeah, I'm not so high on Lux. Adele, is there any going to be competition with like Justin Upton? Like is he gonna get the playing time right away with Adele?
I'm so wheels off now because all this wild stuff happened last year. I'm like, if the guy's going to be good, they're going to find a way. I've stopped worrying about playing time for the most part.
Okay, Ruvain?
That's just me, though. That's me.
Yeah.
That could kick me in the butt. But
Well, I like the Gavin Lux thing because he will get some playing time to start the season because we don't know the story with Max Muncy, how he's going to come back from his elbow injury. So Gavin Lux may get some more playing time early, so you'll be able to see what you get. But I think Eugenio Suarez, I think he was just extremely unlucky last year. And Cody Bellinger, I do like Cody Bellinger. Of that list, I like Cody Bellinger the best because I think he'll have a normal offseason, and I think that they really need him, and I think they're gonna really utilize the DH. If there's gonna be a DH, he's gonna DH a lot so they can rest, so he doesn't have to run around that much, so they can protect him, so he can be more healthy toward the end of the year.
The question is, who's the most likely to bounce back? And that's Suarez. I agree 100% that he's going to bounce back. Who's going to be the most profitable in a bounce back, I think it's either going to be Gleyber Torres or Austin Meadows. I can see those 2 as gaining the most value. But if I had to bet on somebody to exceed his draft value, it's going to be Eugenio Suarez. JD asks, okay, 6x6 categories with the extra one being OPS and quality starts. Would you rather take Semien for $10 or Lowe for $5? No? Nando, which one you like? Semien for 10 or Lowe for 5?
I'll do Semien for 10. I think he's on fire now, and I think it's good. Momentum's going to carry over for another couple seasons. $10 is such a steal for a guy who's amazing right now.
Okay, Ruvain?
Yeah, I agree. I was on the Marcus Semien fan bandwagon for many years already, so I think that's where to go.
Well, I think that with Semien, he had a great year a couple years ago. Then he went a little bit down. Then he had a great year. I kind of think that he had a career year last year, and I don't think he's that good. So I expect a little bit of a comeback. ATC prices the 2 of them within $3 of each other. So in a batting average league. So if you're talking about Semien for 10 and Lowe for 5, just alone you're getting a $2 bargain more by going for Lowe. And that's in a batting average league. I think when you're including OPS, I think Lowe actually gets a little bit better. So I'm going to go with Lowe just because the price is much lower on Lowe. See what I did there?
Fair.
Wow.
Okay.
But
Okay.
what if it was Lau?
He would
Then
he would go
then the-
Lauer.
Ruin the pun, yeah.
The price is lower. Yeah, the price is lower.
See, I'm prepared for everything on the Beat the Shift podcast here, Nando.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Injury update, Ruvain. What Instagram people are you looking at this week?
It's been very quiet this week, so I don't really have any injury updates this week. Hopefully the lockout will end. We'll know what's going on. We'll have a better, all of a sudden we'll get a floodgates will open and we'll have a whole bunch of injury updates. But what I do want to say is this. During the course of drafting season, when you see a player that's been injured, especially pitchers, look at the innings pitched that are projected. That's the best way to calculate to see if the values you're looking at for the injured players and at bats. You'll see whether the values are equal to what you think they're going for. If you see something strange, like let's say you see that someone thinks that Justin Verlander is going to throw 170 innings next year, I don't know if he's going to throw 170 innings next year, coming off of not pitching at all. So you look at these values, look at the at-bats, look at the innings pitched for players coming off of injury. That's a very key fact if you don't know what the injury statuses are.
Nando, would you rather have Verlander or DeGrom for the prices they're going?
Probably DeGrom. That injury, man. I don't know. I'm avoiding both of them. If you maybe choose one, I guess I go with DeGrom, thinking that, I don't know, man. Houston's not dumb, and they signed Verlander with a lot of money, though. So, yeah, let me go Verlander. It'll give me less angst.
Interesting. I
But
kind
you're
of
going to feel so dumb if DeGrom goes off and goes nuts and everything's fine. That's the problem.
yeah. I don't know. I don't really agree with projections on Verlander. They have him pitching like he never missed any time. Oh, he has 140 innings and he'll be great for those. I don't know. Does it really work exact like that? We've seen that people who've returned from Tommy John either get less innings than you think or aren't as good as you quite think they were on the whole. I mean, there's exceptions, but I mean, he's not a spring chicken here. It's not like, well, he's 24 years old returning from Tommy John. He's 39 years old. I mean, I don't know. I don't have confidence in Verlander. And DeGrom, we don't know. We don't know if he's healthy or not. If he's healthy, I mean, it's DeGrom by a mile. And even if he pitches a half season, it's still DeGrom by a mile. So I think I would rather have DeGrom in the second than Verlander up in the seventh.
Well, think about it. Verlander is 39, coming off of Tommy John. Why is he only going to pitch 150 innings if he can pitch more? It's not like he's going to blow out his arm and end his career, because his career is going to be over soon anyway. So he's in a 1 or 2 year contract anyway. So what does it matter if he tries to push himself? That being said, if they are smart and the Astros are going to try to make the playoffs, they'd probably skip him a couple of times just so he's fresh toward the end of the season for a playoff push or even in the playoffs.
We got to get Kate Upton on the show to tell us what the plans are for him.
You're booking a lot of guests.
We try.
Yeah, I'd rather have Kate Upton on than Gene Segura, so do that.
I think so, too. There you go. Well, this is a great show tonight. And I want to thank you, Nando, for coming on the show. Yeah, I mean, you got a great podcast over there. I listen to it. I feel like I'm on the podcast most episodes for some reason.
I do too.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so comfortable talking to you, because I do it every week.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone knows by now, but Ian Kahn on the Under the Radar podcast with Nando and DVR does an impression of me, which I don't know. What do you think? Do you like the impression? You think it's accurate?
I mean, he has your cadence and kind of like your melody down,
Yeah.
I guess. But look, this is for people who don't know Ian Kahn. He's like a successful professional actor. You know what I mean? Like he's been acting for decades. This is his job, and he's just every show. Somehow inevitably the conversation will lead back to you, and he's like, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it." And then 5 minutes, well, it's there we go. And he's off for like a minute, and there you are, sprung to life on our show.
He definitely has the cadence, but I don't know. I kind of think that the character he put forth makes me look like a little bit of a jerk or a pompous guy. I'm really not like that in real life, no?
Well, that's what makes it funny. Also, you do enable him. I think you do, because I was talking to Ariel. You know what he said? I almost guarantee that you are on the phone with him saying something and dropping little seeds into his soil.
Yeah. Did you hear the pickleball clip yet?
No.
You didn't hear it?
No.
All right. Well, we got to show it. Maybe you
He
guys
keeps trying to play these He keeps trying to play these for us before the show.
Oh.
But we have it DVR kind of. He's like, no, we gotta record.
I will say the pickleball one is worth listening to, and maybe you guys will put it as a post credit thing on your show. But the pickleball one is the funniest one yet. I do have to say that. So definitely listen to that and put it on your show. That'll be funny. All right. Anyways, do you want to promote anything, or why don't you push anything you like about you or what you're doing?
No, I'm a humble guy. There's nothing we really need to. Come check out The Athletic if you're so inclined. It's fun.
Awesome.
Boom.
No, great
Plug.
work.
Thank you.
Great work. And your podcast was nominated for Podcast of the Year in 2020. So definitely a great show. Check it out. Ruvain, what about you? Can you post your stuff?
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter at MLB Injury Guru, where I will be eventually tweeting out injury updates as soon as they're available, and I'm going to tweet them out fast and furiously before the season starts. Also, you can catch my weekly article on Rotoballer.
Well, I'm Ariel Cohen. You could read my work over at Fangraphs, at Rotoballer. I had an article that I talked about at the top of the show. Check that out about ATC projections and risk metrics. ATC projections are up on all my sites here, including those two and CBS Sportsline. So check that out as well. My Twitter handle is ATCNY. And, of course, you can always listen to me on the show here, the Beat the Shift podcast, every single week. All right. Well, once again, thank you to Nando Di Fino for coming on the show, and from all of us here at Beat the Shift. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.